right, welcome back to the newest episode of Falls Count Anywhere. I am your sit-in host today, John, with this guy here, the historian, legendary historian, wrestling guy, Chris DiCarlo. What's up, Chris?
Thank you, and yes, welcome aboard. Well, you're always with us, but Charlie had to work today, so the show goes on, though.
Yeah, and I hope, like I told Charlie yesterday, I hope I do all right. Sitting in for one of another great wrestling guy, of course, and big fan. You know how Charlie is, but
you always do. You're the host, regardless. And a little crappy weather, but we are in December here, right?
Well, the windstorm we're suffering right now is pretty good. This is a good one. I'm right on the go. You know where I am, right? Canada's my across the street neighbor, and the wind right now is rattling us. I was afraid I was going to lose power here. But I'm all charged up, so we're good.
Yeah, we're good. So
we're good no matter what. The show goes on.
The show goes on, and as usual, we have a guest.
Yeah, we have an outstanding guest today. There's his promotion, Mid-States Wrestling. This guy, wait till you talk to him. We were just talking to him off air. What a great guy. He is Stephen Espinoza, Stephen E. Mid-States Wrestling, and so many events coming up. So let's bring him in. Here he comes. Hey.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Mr. Espinoza, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Chris. Hey, John. Anywhere in the world I could be right now. I could be jet setting to New York. I could be in California, overseas. But guess what? No, I'm right here with you guys, man. What do you think?
That's awesome. We appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys taking the time and having me on. A lot to talk about. A lot of things going on in the world of wrestling. And, man, I'm just excited to be here.
We're appreciative, man. And our first question, and I guess this is always the softball to start off. Why? How did you get involved? Like, when did it start for you?
Gosh, I think like most people that get involved in professional wrestling, of course I was a fan. Could I pinpoint my first time ever sitting down watching it and falling in love with it? I don't think I could, because it's just always been there. But I can remember at a very early age sitting down watching, like WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 3, even WrestleMania, but I don't think I caught that live. I think I caught that on the videotapes and, whatnot. And, by the time WrestleMania 2 and WrestleMania 3 come around, I'm a California boy. So, of course, with California, I was really WWF influenced. But when I was growing up as a kid, when the pay-per-view started, the WrestleMania 3s and 2s and stuff like that, they didn't, they weren't necessarily on pay-per-views and stuff like that. They had this thing called closed circuit television. And if you were fortunate enough to live in one of the 13, screens in the country, then you could go. But I do believe we had one in Fresno. I grew up in a little small town called Visalia of 100-something thousand, but it was one of those things that just man, I can't tell you when I started watching it, because it's always been a part of my life. It's always been a part of what I do, and it's always been, my go-to form of entertainment and sports and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Sport of Kings. Guys, I started at 1980. I was 5 years old. Since I can remember, it's every Saturday. Of course, growing up here in Niagara Falls, New York, like John said, close to Canada, we got rare NWA Maple Leaf Wrestling and Mid-Atlantic and WWF and some AWA. That's what we started with and grew up with here. So.
Yeah. I was mainly a WWF guy because that's what we had. And then by the time we got cable TV, we had cable TV, but I guess when I figured out that, hey, wait a second, TBS has got, like the 605 and
Georgia Championship
stuff. Yeah. It's like, oh, wait a second. So it kind of introduced me to a new company, so to speak. But, of course, every now and then, we would catch a little bit of, like the AWA, I think is what it was on like ESPN.
Yes.
Or I want to say it was AWA. It could have been another company, but
it was World Class too.
World Class. I do remember World Class. I remember World Class. I remember watching World Class, like going through on a Saturday at our local mall back there in Visalia, and going through Sears. And this is when they had televisions, galore and all that stuff. And I remember watching World Class and thinking, like, that's the Undertaker, So it was probably 92, 93. He'd already debuted in WWE, but he was, I guess, polishing up down there, or not World Class. I'm sorry, but USWA. I'm sorry, it wasn't. World Class,
he started. You're right. Yeah. He started there, and then into yeah,
Yeah,
Texas.
but world class. When I got older, you know, and was starting to understand the psychology of world class, I don't think that there was any better storylines at the time going on than what was going on at World Class with like the Freebirds and the Von Erichs and
Oh
you know and
yes,
Brody and just Devastation Incorporated. Like those guys were just phenomenal storytellers, man.
yeah.
And
In fact,
you know, of course,
we had Mr. James Beard on, which was
yeah,
referee with the GWF and a great
yeah,
guy. And we had the privilege of having Mr. Doyle King on as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Just
James
great.
is such a great guy, such a great guy. You know,
He
my buddy
also got
who
us
was
Black Bart.
Yeah, right. My buddy, you know, he has a school down in Northwest Arkansas that he trains kids, and whenever he gets a referee to come through the door, that's one of the things that he'll do is he gives them a copy of James's book. He has 10 or 15 of them. In fact, we were out at Las Vegas at the Cauliflower Alley Club, and he restocked up on some books so he could give them to the guys that come through because I think his book is titled "Being the Third Man" or something along that line. And guys, in professional wrestling, your average fan may not realize it, but shit, that referee is so vital, so important to the flow of the match and to get you, to keep you on track, to let you know, all right, guys, we got 5 minutes to go. Let's go. Like let's pick it up. They're kind of like that feeler, because sometimes you get so caught up in, okay, here we go. We're gonna go into this, we're gonna go into that, and you just lose track of time. I couldn't tell you how many times, we walked to the back of a show and the promoter's standing there looking at us going, what you guys have? You guys had 12, you guys went 15, or you guys went 17. Like that's because, I mean, like when you're filming for TV and stuff, that throws it off, you're taking away from somebody else. And, especially when the arena is telling you like, hey guys, we need to be, done and moved by midnight. And, the show doesn't get over until 10:30, 11, so it can be tough, but,
One fall, 15-minute time limit.
yeah, but having somebody like James in the ring, that guy's a general, man. He can just, I would be comfortable in my wrestling ability to get in there to have James help me call a match. It'd be great.
Yeah, we're actually looking forward to Mr. Brian Ferguson from the Bumps and Thumps podcast, as you know too, is referred us to Mr. Dave Dwindle. We're looking forward into the new year.
Yeah. That ought to be fun.
Now, Steve, I want to ask you something, man. You, I know we're going to talk about what's going on recently with you because there's some really good stuff happening that I do want to play a clip real quick if you don't mind. Because I'll tell you what, we're here in Niagara Falls, but I started looking in with this Mid-States Wrestling. How you got some good stuff happening, and it's old. It reminded me of my youth, kind of watching you guys. I mean, great promos, people. I mean, it was outstanding. Is there anyone in the past that influenced you like the way you are? Because I'm going to tell you the promo you did the other day, and we're going to show it to the people. It's about a minute long.
It was awesome.
With the neck brace was really good. Any influences from the past?
I think that if you look at the character that I've developed, I've got two big influences. First and foremost, and I'll segue into that after saying this. Whenever I do these podcasts, one of the questions that seems to be brought up a lot is like, who do you consider? Because that's what I do is I manage. Who do you consider the best manager in the business? Yeah. And guys, we all know who that is. But the question is the more important question to me is who's number two, who's number three? Because by far, without a shadow of a doubt, it's got to be that Hammonegger. Bobby Heenan is number one. Bobby Heenan is,
of course.
He was just, and of course that the neck brace is a throwback to Bobby because Bobby would wear one, and in fact, I'll be wearing my neck brace tonight, and I've got to go through and look through my wardrobe to see if I've got a bow tie somewhere that I can put on that thing, and but yeah, Bobby Heenan, of course, was a huge influence on me growing up. I just loved his wit. I loved that you couldn't say anything to that guy. You could not say anything to that guy, and he didn't have a sharp comeback for it. He was just phenomenal on the microphone. His commentary was legendary. I mean, we could talk Jim Ross, the King, Gordon Soley, and whoever. When it comes down to best commentator, for me, I'll always go back to Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. Those guys were just, that was my childhood. you know,
They rank up
and
there for me. Yes.
oh yeah, yeah, you know,
But what
and I
about, we
had
got to laugh about the Grand Wizard of Wrestling, sir?
oh man,
Oh,
great manager, definitely, but you know, like
Early Roth.
I always say that, I always tell people, well, the real question is who's number two and number three.
Four.
Number two and
Yeah.
number three can go multiple directions. You've
oh
got the
yeah.
Sheik, you've got Jim Cornette, you've got Jimmy Hart, you've got all these guys, Paul
Captain
Heyman,
Lou.
Captain Lou, Paul Bearer, you got all these guys that are just phenomenal at what they do. But I just, in my mind, there's nobody that can touch, Bobby Heenan as far as managing. Now
True.
another influence on me would be the $1 Million Man character, Ted DiBiase. I just love that character.
Yeah.
I love the arrogance that when you hear $1 Million Man, everybody knows the
Yeah.
laugh. It
Yeah.
just he's great. He's great. He's an awesome heel character that really got over well. And you know gosh, I mean, like, imagine being Ted DiBiase walking into that office, and I believe it was Pat Patterson told him, it's a character. It's Vince McMahon if Vince McMahon was one of the boys, and running with it and doing that, like, to me, that just, it's like that would be, that would be amazing to be able to portray the $1 Million Man, because he, went to places in jets, and he paid for the tab at the bar and all that other stuff, and he just lived that life, that lifestyle through that character.
But we gotta also, he's due respect, and because Mr. Espinoza and John knows that Ted DiBiase, the pro wrestler before that gimmick, was very good in different territories.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I can't remember what I was watching. I was watching something. They were talking about Ted DiBiase, or maybe it was a podcast, and they were telling the story about DiBiase coming to the WWF, and how, he was the hottest free agent, in American wrestling, and he had signed a deal with JCP, or he wanted to go do some stuff with Jim Crockett, and somebody got a hold of him and brought him up, and they pitched this idea, or they actually didn't pitch the idea, from what I understand, that they said, we've got a gimmick, but we need you to sign on the dotted line before we tell you about it. So he was a little skeptical about it, and they said, no, you're going to want to do this, and he did it, and the rest is history, man. I mean,
Right.
he was such a great character, because everybody hates that person that wears a suit. Everybody hates that person that is a little better off than them. And not only a little better off from them, but will tell you how much better off he is than
Yeah.
them. And it's just a formula that will work. And my character that I've worked on, the Stephen E character is a culmination of 20 years of doing shows and stuff. And the character that I have is very similar to Ted DiBiase, in the sense that I claim to be from upper east end of Manhattan. I'm quick
Right.
to make payoffs. I'll quickly pay people off, and it's great. I love it. But those are probably the two biggest influences on
Now,
my wrestling career.
now, real quick, because I want to show the clip, but before I show it, something happened with you guys on November 12th, right? Wasn't that where there
Yeah,
was a street
yep.
fight? And this is where we are now on December
Yeah,
3rd.
yeah, yeah. Tonight will be the first. Tonight will be the fallout from the street fight that we had on November 12th, and the street fight didn't go my way on November 12th. I was bamboozled into signing a contract, to begin with, and when they got that contract signed, like, I'll tell you guys, first and foremost, I am not a wrestler. I am a manager. I manage wrestlers. I don't wrestle. So, getting in there and doing that, we did great. We really gave the crowd what they wanted. They wanted to see me get the shit kicked out of me, and that's what happened. And I had a couple of guys that come down. Niles Planquet, who's the current Southern heavyweight champion, come down, and Big Joe Helms, who's my hired gun bodyguard, and they came down, and they were going to sit with me, and then Space Cowboy Jason Jones decided to bring in Gary Graham and the Beer City Bruiser to even the odds. And once the odds were even, and we were the last two standing, boy, we went at it for 32 minutes, and
Wow.
beat the living crap out of each other. And it wasn't 32 minutes of, like, gosh, I wonder when this is going to end. It was like, I think we could have went an hour, and they would have ate it up, because the character that I have been playing has been getting over on people for so long, so many years. I carried an undefeated streak for 20 years. I was a mid-states heavyweight champion back in 2000 to 2008. I had to relinquish that belt because of an injury, and so I remained an undefeated, a former mid-states wrestling champion, undefeated. So people would say, well, how are you undefeated if you lost? Well, it's a long story, but if you ever pay me big money, I'll sit down and tell you about it. And of course, I don't get to tell the story too much, but either which way. So I actually beat the Space Cowboy Jason Jones for that title back in 2007, and it was a very monumental time in my career, because I never expected to be a champion in a company, and they said, here, we're going to do this. And I think when we first did it, I was supposed to just be a conversion champion, to take it off of a face, put it on a heel, type, or put it on another face at the next show or a couple shows later. But something called pre-sales went up, and and people, guys, chasing somebody like myself is always going to be money, because the people want to pay to see me get my ass kicked. They want to pay to see me get beat up.
Yeah.
And when you spend 20 years delivering this message of you're never going to get over on me, and for whatever reason, I always seem to get ahead. And then all of a sudden, we have a Springfield street fight. There's no DQ. It's like a level playing field for everybody. I came out on the losing end. But the reason why I came out on the losing end, guys, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. The referee, Jason Jones, took the referee out. When he took the referee out, there was no referee. I took over, went for a couple pinfalls, didn't get any pinfall because there's no referee to make the count. Big Joe Helms comes out because it is a no DQ match, so we can do that. Big Joe Helms comes out, the hired gun comes out, does a couple choke slams to the Space Cowboy. I order him to choke slam him onto the table. He kind of is really reluctant. I did what anybody should do in that position. I slapped the shit out of him. And when I slapped him, it kind of unleashed something from him. He's at the point where he's not going to take my shit anymore. He's not going to take my crap anymore. And he grabbed me, and of course I went to the hands and knees and begged him not to hit me. And he eventually thought straight and got out of the ring and left. And before doing so, he should have put him through the table, because if he'd have put him through that table, then I would have secured the victory. But instead, he walked out to the back. I walked over to the second rope, climbed up the second rope, and was telling him, get back in the ring. And all of a sudden, Space Cowboy comes up from behind, hits me, puts me through a table, and then all of a sudden, a referee appears and makes a 3 count. So tonight, at the show, I'm going to be letting everybody know that my attorneys are currently investigating the outcome of November 12th. So
let's I want to play. This is an awesome promo. It's a minute 12. I want our fans, the people that watch our show, to see this. This is outstanding. Watch this promo, everyone. It's a minute 12. This is great.
Stephen E. is here at my office, and I am here with a prepared statement from my attorneys that I am going to read to each and every one of you out there in Facebook land. December 3rd in Harrison, Arkansas, I will be making my official statements in regard to the outcome of November 12th under the advice of my attorney, who is overseeing the investigation. I am advised to not make a comment in reference to the Springfield street fight. Therefore, I will only say that all involved in the outcome will have to pay a price. I am no longer undergoing concussion protocol, and I am putting everyone on notice who had anything to do with the outcome of the 12th. Space Cowboy Jason Jones, the Johnnies, Gary Graham, and that no-good referee will all suffer at my hands one thing I can address right now is the hired gun, Big Joe Helms. You better be prepared, Big Joe. You better be prepared to get on your hands and knees, my friend. You better be prepared to get on your hands and knees and beg me for forgiveness, because we're going to be live in Harrison, Arkansas, December 3rd. And you, my friend, if you don't get on your hands and knees and beg me for forgiveness, you won't be known as the hired gun. You'll be the fired gun.
Now that's perfect.
Golden. Love it.
Yeah.
That's old school.
And guys, if you guys haven't had an opportunity to see Joe Helms, the guy is an absolute monster. Just a monster. He's 6'2", 6'3", 310 pounds. Former he carries around 5 championship rings from his semi-pro football career.
Wow.
So he's an athlete. He's very intimidating looking, but in this world, in the world of professional wrestling, money talks and bullshit walks. So we'll see what happens.
Love it, man. Chris, that was it. That's what we've been wanting to see for a long. Even with the stuff, the national things, they don't do that. No, they're the only manager is Paul Heyman, I guess.
Yeah, and you got the kid in the AEW, but no, they don't emphasize managers, in professional wrestling anymore, and it's really quite.
What's pro wrestling been without a little blood here and there?
Well, guys, I'll give you a great example. And I absolutely think that this guy has so much talent. It's unbelievable. Ricochet. The guy is just a phenomenal talent. He can go, he can wrestle. He's that new age wrestling. He's that new style that the kids seem to be going on, the flipping and all that stuff. But you put a microphone in his hand and he kind of falls short. And that's the beauty of managers. I mean, look at Paul Heyman, what he's done for Roman Reigns. For years Roman Reigns was ridiculed and persecuted for his lack of mic skills, which they haven't improved. They've improved 100 times since the Shield days or whatever. But Brock Lesnar is another one. I used to watch Heyman cut promos with Brock Lesnar, and when he would get done with and Brock wouldn't come out and say anything. He'd just stand there and bounce around and look at the camera or whatever. But when Paul Heyman would get done with his promo, he would look over at Brock and give Brock a smile, and that was good, and you just knew you had something when you were done with it. And that's a great thing. Whenever I shot that, I shot that, and I honestly think it took me 2 takes to get it. I shot it, and I was like, that's good. That's good, because it's an old school. It's an old school formula of just telling everybody what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, and I told everybody what I was going to do. I was going to show up to Harrison, Arkansas on December 3rd, and I wasn't going to be able to talk much about the Springfield street fight because my attorneys are overseeing an investigation, and the one thing that I can address is Big Joe Helms. So we'll see what happens with the fallout with Big Joe tonight. We'll be there. Hopefully, he will. Hopefully he'll put his thinking cap on and figure this out.
Right. I love it, man. That makes me want to see it tonight. I wish I was there. I truly wish I was in that area, because
let's also promote his the week after, or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I got the 18th, but you can tell us more because something's happening on the 17th.
Yep. On the 17th, on Sunday the 18th, Jimmy Hart is going to be in Springfield at the Relics Event Center. Bell time, I believe, is 6:00. We're doing a little bit earlier since it's the Sunday show, but he'll be there. And man, I tell you what, we were talking about managers earlier. This guy right here is
for sure.
Man, I mean, he is just he's iconic. I had the privilege a month and a half ago to spend a lot of time with Jimmy out at Las Vegas for the Cauliflower Island Club. Anybody out there that's not a member of the Cauliflower Island Club, join, look at it, check it out.
Yeah.
$25. It's a great organization. Yep. But we were out there in Vegas. And and of course let's go grab a bite to eat. We're walking down Fremont because we're over in the old district. We're walking down Fremont, and everybody and their mother, we're walking, and Jimmy, if you pull that picture back up again, Jimmy wears that jacket. He looks just like that out in public. Minus the megaphone. And so we're walking down, and people are like, is that the real Jimmy Hart? Because of course, when you go to Vegas, you never know if it's the real
Yeah.
the real person or not. There's so many what do you call them,
Imposter.
lookalikes or imposters or
Yeah.
whatever. In fact, I seen Tiger Joe and Tupac Shakur out there while we were there as well. But with Jimmy, he's just such a that guy has so much energy, and he is just so willing to help you do anything and everything that you want to do. Like, guys, I would 100% recommend to, if you could get him on the show, do that, because he is such a great guy. But
I've tried.
in the area on the 17th, he's going to be here for the show on the 18th, but on the 17th he's going to be at. Let me grab my phone real quick and tell you what the actual place is. But he's going to be in a local coffee shop, doing a intimate kind of like a panel, and
not to interrupt you, sir. While you look at that, I'm going to bring up, I don't know if you were at or know of too, that we're going to show up. There's so many conventions. We've never been to a convention, but with doing this podcast, we are definitely asked to go to the Waterloo, Iowa, and in July there, the Pro Wrestling Museum Hall of Fame in Luthez, and with Chad Olson and Troy Peterson and Mr. Jannard Soli. So hopefully this year coming up, we're going to be there.
Yeah. Well, again, are you guys members of the Cauliflower Alley?
Yes.
Have you guys been out to Vegas to
No.
Man, guys, like the thing about the cons, and I've been to Chicago.
We had
Comic
Mr.
Con.
Brian Blair on a couple weeks ago.
Oh man, Brian's a great person. I mean, that guy is just, I had never had a chance to meet Brian. And then, of course, at this last Cauliflower Alley Club, I went up and introduced myself, and he just made me feel like we'd known each other for 20 years. Just such a kind, very soft-spoken guy. God, he just had such great things to say at the banquets and stuff like that. But the great thing about the Cauliflower Alley Club is it kind of gives you that con experience, in the sense of when I first went to Chicago Comic Con. My son wanted to go. I had no idea that there were going to be wrestlers up there or anything like that. So we go up there, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. Like, you're looking at the pamphlets, it's like there's a lot of WWE guys, that were up there. And I started looking through the schedule and the agenda and stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, they're having a panel. Mick Foley's having a panel at 9:00. I want to start writing these down so I can go to them. Man, I had more fun going and sitting down at these panels and watching these guys just answer questions than anything else.
Yes.
Billy Gunn, Austin Gunn, and I can't remember the girl's name. She was a TNA girl, one of the mainstays of TNA for a long time. But
Goldilocks?
No. Red hair, Valerie. SoCal Val. I think SoCal Val was. I think that's what it was. And anyways, either which way, dude, it was just really cool to be able to answer the questions and to be able to interact with them. Like, I got to meet a couple of guys that I had never met before. And again, one of the things that a lot of guys, when they find out about the world of professional wrestling, they one of the questions that seems to be asked by a lot of my non-fan friends is like, hey, are those guys really that big? And it's like, yeah, they are. But because I'm always selling the business. Well, they're huge. But there's a handful of people that I've met over the years that have really surprised me at how big they actually are. And
in person.
I'm a big person. I'm 6'4", 260 pounds. So I'm not, not just I'm not a small person by any means. But when I met Billy Gunn, I couldn't believe how just tall Billy Gunn was. It's funny because I hear Danhausen say the biggest man in the world. It's like, that dude is really big, man. Another person that surprised me was Robert Gibson. The first time I ever met Robert Gibson from Rock and Roll Express, he was quite a bit. He was quite a bit bigger than he's not a fat person by any means, but he's just a big individual. But Kane, of course, we live in a world of kayfabe, so I always like, well, Kane's probably my height or whatever. And when I met him, I was like, man, he's probably a legitimate 6'7". Like, he towered me. He towered me. And Mick Foley was another one, man. I never in a million years thought Mick Foley was going to be as big as he was, and he was huge, man. He was. Wow. He was a big guy.
Well, I've seen the Big Show, Paul Wright and Kevin Nash in person, and they are huge.
Yeah, yep, they sure are. They sure are.
And this is why on December 17th, when you're going to get an intimate opportunity to be with the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart.
Yeah. They're limited it down to, I believe, 30 tickets. So there's only going to be 30 people that are going to be able to attend. And it's going to be December 17th at 7 p.m. at the Kyoju or Kaiju Coffee. Here in Springfield. It's at 1126 North Broadway Avenue. So, here in Springfield, Missouri. So anybody in the area, man, you want to sit down. I guarantee that you will have a conversation with Jimmy Hart, and Jimmy Hart will make you feel like you're the only person in the world that he's talking to. He just has that ability.
That's
he's
great.
such a great guy. We got to spend that time together at in Vegas, and then a couple of weeks later, we did that show for the Kansas Special Olympics out in Dodge City, Kansas. He was there. Him and Lex Luger were there, and it was nice to be able to sit down and talk with Jimmy again because Jimmy just, oh, baby, we just had so much fun out there, didn't we? And it was like, yeah, we did, man. We had a great time. Good story I'll tell you about that is, when we get there, the banquet is, it's an open air banquet. There's, I don't know, 1,500 people probably at the banquet. There's probably a couple hundred tables that you could fit 10 people in or whatever. And anyways, it was pretty packed, and we get there and we're kind of like, well, we really don't know where to go. There's no assigned seating, so it's just kind of find a seat. And Jimmy, we're kind of getting Jimmy down there. And Jimmy goes, no, come sit with me, guys. Come sit with me. So we're okay. And we go up to the table, and we're looking, and I'm just like, holy smokes, man, we're at the WWE reserve table. And they had two tables that was reserved for the WWE guys, JBL, Rey Mysterio, all those guys. But we got two chairs there. We sat there both nights, and that was just amazing. We got to sit at the table with Jackie, Jerry Lawler, Jimmy Hart. If there was anybody closer to the podium than me, I would argue because I was closest to the podium. If the podium fell down, I would be the one that would have been to catch the day. But it was an awesome time. I recommend you guys going out. If you guys are already members of the club, then take 3 or 4 days and go out there and enjoy that because you run into anybody and everybody, and like I said, I feel like, to me, that the club, the banquets and stuff like that, the panels that they have remind me of what I enjoyed at the Comic Con. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed like going around and seeing the Walking Dead stuff, and but I'm a wrestling fan, so of course I immediately want to see the wrestling stuff, and when we went to the Mick Foley one that evening, we're there, and gosh, like I caught it at the last minute. I said, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go do this. Went to the room that it was in, because we're in a big hotel down in Chicago, Rosemont. Went down there, waited in line, got in, and I just was looking around, and I was like, there's like 8 people here, and this was he was doing his 20 years of Hell in the Cell, the 20 years of Hell in the Cell program that he did. In fact, he was real adamant about like we couldn't film and stuff like that because they hadn't released the other one on the network. And he was convinced that if somebody filmed it and put it on YouTube or something like that, that they would receive a cease and desist from Vince. And he said, plus you guys don't want to, he goes, you guys don't want to see this on a camera. He goes, there's a big production, yada yada yada, that will just make this look great. But it was awesome. It was awesome. But these type of events, these personal sit downs, man, they're great because like, everybody goes to a show, and even if you go to a show, you usually, if you don't catch them at like the little meet and greet that they do out there in the lobby or whatever, you're probably going to get a handshake as they walk to the ring or whatever. These right here, man, there's no doubt in my mind that anybody that goes to that is going to talk to Jimmy, whether it's a handshake, whether it's a picture, whether it's whatever, you're going to have an interaction with him. And anybody that has an interaction with him that's a professional wrestling fan, he will make it so memorable you will never forget it for the rest of your life. I remember the first time I met Jimmy.
That's great.
Think about
Mr. Sorry, John, Mr. Espinoza, I just want to piggyback on what you were saying there. Like, we're obviously still fans, and we keep up on the WWE, AEW, NWA. I like because it's old school and it's studio wrestling. But we're old school at heart, of course. And I gotta say, from a fan point, and then being able to do this show. When Mr. David Crockett actually called my phone, and I almost didn't answer it because I thought it was a telemarketer. My 16-year-old son said, "Answer it." And it was David Crockett, but he started talking to me like, "Hi, how you doing?" And I'm like, he was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm waiting for my 85-year-old mother to do blood work." And he was like, "Oh, well, this is David Crockett." I'm like,
yeah.
And don't hang up. I was like, oh my God, I was blown away. And all these guys, and even yourself, are just great and awesome, and we greatly appreciate it.
Oh man, guys, really, it shows like these that number one, for somebody like myself who is kind of a regional guy, it's introducing me to a whole new audience.
Right.
And that's great. And anybody that has an opportunity to come on podcast, I spoke with you guys off air about legendary promoter Herb Simmons up at SICW in Southern Illinois, East St. Louis. He tells the locker room guys, if you get an opportunity, go do these podcasts. They're great for promoting. They let everybody know when our stuff is coming up, and you gotta understand, this is coming from somebody who has been a promoter for 50 years. 10 years ago, he wasn't telling people like, okay, kid, what you need to do is you need to get on a podcast. It's like these podcasts are those opportunities that get put out in front of people with podcasts and interviews and stuff like that. People need to be taking advantage of them because they introduce you to that new audience. How do I say it? They give people an opportunity to see your work or see what you do that may not ever get an opportunity to see it.
And our show is, of course, we're local in Niagara Falls, New York, is our base, and we're on Facebook as our home, but we're on Twitter and Spotify and YouTube. But this show is not even throughout the country. This show, John, is worldwide, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get on the internet. That's where you are, man. You're everywhere. And I'm going to say this real quick because I know we got to let you go because and thank you for spending so much time. I wish I was in your area because after last night when I saw that promo, the first thing I said to Chris is, I want to see this. Like, I actually want to see tonight what's going to happen after that. So this is outstanding. This is what I remember making me want to watch TV the next Saturday.
I'll tell you what.
Without that internet, John, every Saturday we were glued, right, Mr. Espinoza?
Absolutely. Every Saturday we were glued. Every Saturday, and then every couple of months we would get that Saturday night main event. So where we were on after 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, or whatever. But I tell you what I'm gonna do, John. I'm gonna be down there with the promoter tonight. I'm gonna get a couple of DVDs from our last few shows, and I'm gonna send them to you guys. And that'll give you guys something that because what you guys probably catch are just clips, and stuff. But we have, I can't say it and guys, I have no affiliation with Mid-States other than the fact that I've worked for them for 20 years. I'm no owner or anything like that. Let me tell you guys, that is the fastest rising promotion in the Midwest right now. The production value is great. The crowds are on fire. I mean, we've sold out Relics. I want to say we're on 13 times, so it's safe to assume we might need to start looking for a new building because the last thing we want to do is send money out the door, and we're just really on another level right now when it comes to independent wrestling, and I'm not taking anything away from anybody else because I think what they do is great too. Earlier, Chris, you had said something about a studio show. Well, you guys have got to watch SICW up in Southern Illinois. We do a 1-hour show up there. It's a studio type show. In fact,
I have seen it on YouTube. Yes.
Yeah. In fact, when I first started working for Herb, I went up there and he drew a pretty decent little house, and I thought, okay, yeah, this will work. And then we came back for the TV tapings the next day, and I thought, where's everybody at? They had about 40 people in the studio at this point, and this was it was 40 people that were the loud, the respectable 40, I guess is what you would call them. and man, on television, it looks it looks so good. I love it. Like you would never tell they got the black backdrops that they drop. It's just a great, there's no entrance music, there's nothing like that. There's no pyros or anything. It's just like, get to the ring, sit in the ring, the announcers announce, the talent holds their arms up, and they put the little crawl across the bottom of them, and that's what it is. It's just old school studio wrestling, and I love it.
Yes, old school. Let's hook them up.
Yep.
Yes, please. And I'm going to say one last thing. That, for me, a guy who was like Chris, I mean, I like that last night, watching that promo brought me way back to some good stuff, and I can't wait. I appreciate that. I can't wait to see the discs, because that was good stuff. That was really
definitely. You've got my Facebook and my phone number and all that stuff. So just send me your guys' mailing address, and I'll go ahead and send those out to you and let you get those, because like I said, when it comes to the bottom of the card to the top of the card, we do a VIP match at Mid States, and the VIP match is always that match to get everybody up and get everybody started, get everybody going. The last VIP match was the Johnny's versus Gary Graham and Roscoe Monroe. And guys, if you haven't seen Roscoe Monroe, he is a worker in our area. Like you said, you like those throwback characters. Man, he when you look at him, he looks like a wrestler from the 60s and the 70s. And he's up there. He's probably in his mid-60s. Great talent, looks good, gets the fans behind him. He does his job. He goes out there. He's excellent. I love the guy to death. He puts a bunch of old school promo stuff on his Facebook during the week, like old school magazines and whatnot. It's phenomenal. He's a great talent.
I've seen and I've heard of the name. A quick question: is he related to Sputnik Monroe?
No, no, I don't. I don't think he is, but there might be some connection. I'm not quite sure.
Gimmick.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
We'll let you go, man. You got a big show tonight, December 3rd. Tonight.
Yeah. December 3rd, bell time, 7 p.m. down in Harrison, Arkansas. It's a fallout from the Springfield Street fight. Big Joe's gonna have to get on his hands and knees tonight and beg me for forgiveness, because if he doesn't, there's gonna be hell to pay. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then buy the DVD or come down to the show and see what's gonna happen.
All right, man.
On YouTube for sure, guys.
Yeah, definitely, guys. I appreciate you having me on. It was fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one. Take care. Chris, outstanding guest again, man.
Yes. Wow. We could go on and on just talking about old school alone, but yeah, we got to.
There's tonight right there. If you're in the area, man, go, because it sounds like a lot. I'm dead serious. That really got me going when I saw the promo. It was really good.
A lot of these independents are getting up there to where it's a big deal, like the NWA. You know what I mean? So, it's great. So,
Chris, why don't we do this real fast? Because I know we got things to do. Why don't I take a quick commercial break? A short, maybe minute. We'll have a minute or so break. We'll be right back with our normal lineup for what we do. Yeah. All right, Chris, we'll be right back.
Digits 988 can save a life. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides connection to free confidential support. There is hope. The Lifeline works. For 24/7 confidential support, just call, text, or chat 988.
Hey, Chris, we're back. Thank you
We
to
are
the
back.
sponsors. Um, let's go into Sheik tweets.
Yes.
Let's just get right into it. Our guy, Charlie collected these for us. Well, let's start out. Let me find one here. Let's see what this one. Oh, geez.
Oh,
Here's the Sheik. Just a note for everyone reading this: don't be a effing jabroni. Well, that's good words to live by. It's
yeah.
perfect.
Well, we're fans, so we're not.
Like Confucius. Yeah, no, right. Let's see what the next one says.
Oh,
Oh, geez. Kanye West, F you, F you, the Nazis, and go F yourself forever. You are the jabroni of the earth. Well, yeah, I mean,
I've heard
Nazis.
some rumblings about that over this past week, and I don't know all the details, but I'll agree with the Sheik.
Yeah, we have to. How the hell could you not? Because then this would happen.
Yeah.
He says Iran or the USA. Now that was the soccer, the World Cup.
Oh, right.
The United States did win that game, 1-0, I believe, or something.
Yes, I heard that.
Yep. So the U.S. does move on. So there's the Iron Sheik, and now we got one more from him. Same thing, Iron Sheik, the legend of the USA and the Iran. So no matter what happened, he would win.
He is, yes. He's very respectful and thankful to being in the United States and a U.S. citizen, but also to his home country of Iran, and just a great athlete and a person over the years.
And there he was, man. Nothing better than Sheik tweets. But now, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to rush, but I know I love these interviews though. Think about that interview we just had with a guy who's just outstanding. I mean, he's everything you want when we talk about old school wrestling, and you found him. So
right, exactly. And we promoted the new, and that's what we're all about: is friendship and promoting each other across this country.
Definitely, yes. Well, now Charlie does this, and I love it. He does this little segment. It's the three-way. It's a Falls Count Anywhere match. This one is a three-way Falls Count Anywhere match. It's TNA Hard Justice 2006, and in this one,
Samoa Joe, Rhino.
Yes, Samoa Joe versus Rhino versus Monty Brown. Now Samoa Joe ends up winning this, as you see, as his hands being raised. He wins by smashing, I guess, Rhino through a table, and he is declared the winner. There he is.
Awesome. Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed early NWA TNA and then even TNA, but up until the mid 2000s, then it went to pot. But that's my opinion. Moving on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I know. I hear you. Samoa Joe, real fast, probably underappreciated. Do you think?
For sure. Many years. Very great. If you ever check it out, even on YouTube, put in Samoa Joe ROH for Ring of Honor, and he was Ring of Honor heavyweight champion. I mean, that is really great. And then TNA was very good for him too. WWE could have done a lot better, of course, but
yeah,
well, great athlete.
Well, here we are, Chris, to the part where we're all about. I mean, you're the historian, you're the guy. Talk about your clips, your incredible vault.
Yes, well, we have a disclaimer. Also, each and every week, I do not sell these clips or DVDs of mine. They're my personal collection, and only pick a few clips for our shows each and every week. And this week we have two. In fact, like Mr. Espinoza has been talking on, we're old school, and we have two old school territories. So let's start to roll it.
Yep.
Here we go. San Francisco territory with the studio wrestling, John, from the 70s.
Look at Roddy Piper.
And there he is, Scotland the Brave.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, this guy. Another one underappreciated, I think.
For sure, should have been a WWF World Heavyweight Champion at least.
Definitely.
But just so many names and stars throughout these promotions. Here you have Pat Patterson.
Yes.
Getting attacked by Alex Smirnoff here. I mean, the old school studio, right, John? It's kind of what we're talking about. I mean, that's great.
It is. It's what I want to see. Look at this.
Right. I mean, this I wish there was more of this. Got a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, being out of San Francisco, I mean,
this is unbelievable stuff. Footage.
Look at a young Don Morocco here.
Yeah, wow. Look at this. He's in his 20s here. Look at how young he is. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, who's who?
Oh, look at here.
Now here, in the white hair there with the striped shirt is the promoter and owner. Jeez.
Yeah, and he's telling Playboy Buddy Rose.
The name is slipping me, and I know Roy Shires.
Okay.
I don't know if he's related to George Shire, but Roy Shires is the owner and promoter there of the territory with LA, and just told Buddy Rose, get in the ring against the Superfly here live on TV.
Yeah, he was asking if he was scared. Now he tells him, I'm going to cripple him, or whatever he tells him.
Jimmy, look at the young Jimmy Snuka here too.
Yeah, and this is when when Playboy here was in good shape, actually.
Yeah.
Better, at least.
And then here he has a tag team match. There, I believe Texas Red, it was his partner here.
Yeah, yes. I think that's they said, yeah.
I know, I could watch this all day. Here's a character, Moondog Maine.
Yeah, look at this. These guys are so good on the microphone. Look at these guys.
This guy, unfortunately, I heard he died young, like a couple shortly after. And then there we are, the classic Valiant brothers, John.
They're great. Yeah, Jimmy, I love these guys.
There's Johnny and Jimmy on this show, this promotion. I mean, who's who started through all these territories, you know what I mean? And then they got into being a bigger name across the country.
Yeah, when you think of, I mean, we just saw Piper. We're going to see him again here in a minute, but geez, he did so much to make the WWE what it is today. And that war to settle the score, it was all him, really. He was the guy that everyone hated.
Right, like Stephen E. You want to go and kick his ass every week. That's what they wanted to do. And Piper's Pit also inspired that.
Right, absolutely. All right, let's roll the next one.
Here we are, the LA territory again, where young Roddy Piper was in. And there's a classic ring announcer, also did a boxing, Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Oh, geez.
Jimmy Lennon Sr. there.
Sorry. Chavo Guerrero. There he is.
Chavo, yeah, this was 1978.
Just last week, we heard him talking with Johnny Rods. Remember, Piper was saying Chavo Guerrero's crying.
Yeah. Oh, got to play the bagpipes here.
Yeah, that's.
Can you imagine? I mean, that's got to be it. We got to give him some props on a skill of doing that. I couldn't only imagine.
No, I know, and it looks like it takes a lot of air. Look at how you know what I mean? Like the breath. Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, look at this.
There he is, a classic opening, right? Great wrestling from the Olympic, meaning the Olympic Auditorium there in Los Angeles, California.
Wow.
And again, I mean, but you can see once they widen in here, speaking of people that went through the territory, we're going to see this tag team, John. Of course, you know one there, Ox Baker.
Ox Baker, yeah. That's what I thought I saw walking by. Oh, geez, who's this guy?
I don't know if that was trying to be like a Dracula gimmick or what.
Yeah, I think it was Dracula, yeah.
And there he is again, the ring announcer. The enforcer.
Oh, geez, look at his face.
And Ox Baker. What a
Baker. This guy. What a
powerhouse. Gimmick. What a personality. Look at that ring, though, John. It reminds me of the first ring in Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens, right? They had the extra apron.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. The extra apron, yeah.
The extra apron to walk on, in which we're going to see here shortly another instance of that. There he is, right? Mil Mascaras.
Yep. There he is.
Definitely, you know, you top 3 managers, the top 10 masked wrestlers of all time for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there he is. Here's a rare clip indeed. As you see, John, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
In the LA territory here at the Olympic Auditorium. See, look at that, how that ring was. Wow. It was huge.
It is huge. That's great.
You got an apron to walk on before you even get into squared circle there.
And look at this.
Of course, Hogan just tore apart this young Mike Masters at the time.
Yeah, mauling him. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Great.
great classic footage, you know.
You know what? Also, when you're watching it, I know we got a roll here, but when you're watching it, you think about what's that? The '70s, California in the '70s. You know what I mean? It was a completely different world than where we grew up in the Northeast. It's really cool to see. I appreciate those.
All these territories, classic. Just love them all.
Definitely, man.
So what do we have? Our
jobber. It's time to bring the jobber up. Let me find him. Hold on. The jobber of the week. Our jobber of the week is this guy. Here he is, Alan Martin. Alan Martin, and this is what I found about Alan Martin. 1986 to 1991, 14 matches, WCW and WWF. Some of the greats that he did take on: Harley Race, Coco Beware, the Bushwhackers, Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, Jake Roberts, Jim Duggan were the greats that he got to get in the ring with. And there he is, Alan Martin, our enhancement talent, jobber of the week. And you know what I just did, Chris, and I forgot to do this, and it's pissing me off right now as I'm thinking about it. You know what I didn't bring up was this.
Oh,
there it is. And I'm bringing it up now. There's the Sheik. You guys, I forgot him, but there they are. So, Alan, do you remember anyone? Do you remember that guy, Alan Martin?
Yes. Well, we talked off camera before we rolled here, and yes, that name definitely rings the bell, and I remember him being on the old, speaking of which, WTBS in the late 80s there in WWF. So, yes, actually.
Before we get to our and close out, I'm going to ask you, and we do our public service announcement. Special day today for one of the people that works on our show.
Yes, one of my sons, 21 years old today. Happy 21st birthday to my son, Christopher Peter DiCarlo. We're going to have a little party in his honor, and we're thankful to him taking care of our YouTube channel, which brings me to, as we do each and every week, thank our viewers across all our platforms. Of course, our home is Facebook, but bring it up there, John, they're Twitter at Count Anywhere, which is growing, and thank you to them and all the followers. And there that is our YouTube channel. YouTube, under search, put in Friends with the Z there Media Network, and has all our shows, not just this one. And that also is growing. And yes, we thank him for helping us out.
Yeah, definitely. If you're thinking of when you're at our YouTube, that's Christopher. That's all him doing the whole thing, and we appreciate it more than he probably even realizes.
Right.
So why don't we always do a public service announcement, and today what we're going to discuss is this, because this is nation worldwide. Human trafficking, 888-373-7888.
I just seen it on Fox News this morning, with this southern border. I mean, it's just terrible.
So keep your eyes open, because remember, whatever's going on at the southern border is now, it's not just stuck down there. It's all over the country. It's all in Canada, the whole thing. If you see anything that appears to be what you know as human trafficking, you see young kids, you see, especially and it's sadly, if you're driving around your town, your city, and you see prostitutes, things like that, you see young ones, chances are that's what's happening. So 888-373-7888, you can call that number. If you don't call your own police, obviously, but you can call that number, completely anonymous. No one's going to bother you after you give the information. But one thing you'll know is you could have saved hundreds of people, because like you said before, Chris, I mean, this world it's just different, right? I mean, it's not only different in the wrestling world, it's different everywhere. So just
sad to say, but we got to be just like we were talking real quick, people driving, going through stop signs, going through red lights around here. I mean, it's just crazy nowadays, but you got to watch out and be safe for yourself, I guess, and move on.
Yeah, you stay vigilant, right? But this human trafficking is a big, big problem all throughout North America, I know, and you just got to...
Yeah, you know what? I got to give a quick shout out here. A lot of these border patrols don't get enough thanks. In fact, just real quick, me and my 16-year-old son, every 9/11, we went and gave a thank you card and gave it to the border patrol, the police, the fire, the New York State Police, and the Border Patrol were so thankful and couldn't believe that somebody reached out and thanked them, because they're always trying to get people coming from Canada to Buffalo. And, you take it for granted that, well, what are they doing around here? But they are doing a lot of work that people don't know, and they deserve the credit.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that, man, because that's where a lot of what we were just talking about, human trafficking, that's where it all comes. And those people are on the front of it. And they're the ones that are going to, they're the ones that protect us, man.
Right.
So maybe we should wrap it up here. It was a great show. If you're in that Springfield, Missouri area, of course, tonight, December 3rd, check it out. We have, it's at the I'm sorry, I said that wrong. They're at the they're in Harrison, Arkansas tonight at the fairgrounds, indoor building, December 3rd. Check that out. And we'll promote it more.
On YouTube as well.
Yes, definitely. Well, Chris, why don't we wrap it up? Great show. Thanks for letting me co-host.
Yeah, as always. And
right.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, see everyone next week, and we'll hit our music and go on to the weekend.